And news of the federal MARTA investigation comes days before Georgia's runoff elections, with several top statewide races still up for grabs. Host of Atlanta News First political show On the Record, Rick Fobaum, joining us here in studio. You have been reaching out to all of the campaigns, trying to see what they have to say about this. What are they saying?
Well, you know, this is an opportunity for them to actually let voters know how they feel, with early voting about to start on Monday. And we've reached out to both Democrats and Republicans asking for their reaction to all of this. Let's talk about the candidates for the governor's race. Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones says, quote, "We're grateful for our federal partners in the Trump administration for taking these heinous crimes seriously and for partnering with us in our ongoing efforts to keep Georgians safe." Now, his opponent in the Republican runoff, businessman Rick Jackson, says he welcomes the investigation. Good, he says. President Trump is serious about keeping Georgians and Americans safe. And unlike Keisha Lance Bottoms, I'll work with his administration to do so. Now, we've reached out to the Bottoms campaign for comment. The former Atlanta mayor has not yet sent us a statement. In the race for the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate, Congressman Mike Collins says that he is thankful that the Trump administration is taking crime seriously and working to protect innocent Georgians traveling on MARTA. He says no one should have to put their life at risk to travel on Georgia's public transportation. And a spokesman for Derek Dooley's campaign says the Republican Senate candidate fully supports the investigation to hold MARTA accountable and keep Georgians safe. He calls last weekend's violence a preventable tragedy and that he is praying for the victims. Now, one of these two men will face off against Senator Jon Ossoff. The Democratic incumbent's campaign has not responded to our questions about his response to the MARTA investigation, but one Democrat running for statewide office has. Lieutenant Governor candidate Nabila Parks telling Atlanta News First she is deeply concerned about violence on MARTA, but she goes on to say, quote, "I don't trust Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy or the Trump administration as far as I can throw them." Her primary opponent, Joshua McLaurin, has not yet gotten back to us either. Now, this will be a big topic on this week's On the Record, of course, so you can join us this Sunday at 11. The latest political news and analysis on how this investigation could impact the upcoming campaigns.
All right, some important stuff there, Rick. Thanks for that perspective, as always.